Hey everybody, Fasting Eddie coming at you again with another video. Today I'm going to show you my homemade bone broth recipe. A lot of you guys out there have been using that store stuff and aren't really happy with it. Well, I've got to like this one. It's an acquired taste, but I do my little things to make it worthwhile. And all the vegetables you're seeing, look, we're not making a vegetable stew here. I'm using everything that's about to go bad, because I am into my 5th day of fasting right now and I did not plan accordingly. So the only thing I actually went out and bought for this thing were the bones. And let me talk about the bones. The ones I like to use are these right here, the ones they call the dog bones, because they got the marrow in the middle big time, and that's the ones you're looking to get, the marrow. This isn't a beef stew, it's a bone broth that uses the collagen and all the good stuff that comes from the marrow. Unfortunately, the dog owners get into the grocery store first thing it opens every morning and they take them all. So I got to take what I get left. So in this case I had to get some beef neck bones, which have a little bit of marrow in them, but it's going to be mostly for flavor at this point. So when you can get them, and of course try to get the grass-fed and all that, but when you live in a small town you do what you can. I throw a lot of spices in here as well to give it some flavor, and it's very oily at the end and I love it. It's definitely, like I said, an acquired taste. I'm going to use cheesecloth at the end to strain it, but you can use a colander. And it looks like a lot of work here, but really it's not. The only thing I did was cut those leeks in half. Everything else here, I'm not prepping a single thing. I'm just throwing it all in the pan. So let's get started. I'm going to show you what the next step is. So the first thing you want to do, and this is a very important step that most people skip, and it's the difference between making nasty bone broth or good bone broth. This is called blanching. So I'm going to take a big soup pot. I'm going to throw all my bones in the bottom. I'm going to cover them with water about 1 inch or 2 above. This isn't your soup. What you're doing here is you're getting all the nasty stuff and the impurities out of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this to a boil, a rolling boil, and I'm going to actually let it boil like that for about an hour. If you need to add water as you're going along, do so. But what you're going to be doing is all the nasty stuff is going to be rising to the top, and it's going to be like a brown foam. So during the hour, I'm going to keep coming back in and checking on it. I'm going to be scooping off the top with a ladle, and when I get my first one, I'll show you how it looks. We're back, and you know what? It's been a while since I made this, and I told you earlier, just put the water just above the bones. Well, when I came in the kitchen, a lot of the water had already boiled down, and all the impurities were stuck to the side of the pot, so I refilled it with a lot more water so I can get that rolling boil again. But in the meantime, you could see the gook. See that stuff? That's the nasty stuff that comes out of these bones, and that's the stuff that's going to make the difference between how it tastes and all that. So when this gets rolling, most of this stuff's going to be floating on the top, and like I said, I do this for a total of about an hour. So I'm going to get this back up to a boil and then run it for about another 15 minutes, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Going for about an hour now, and you can see all the nasty stuff I got out of there. So now I'm going to shut this off, and then I'm going to drain this out. Okay, I'm getting ready to dump the bones out to get them onto the next stage. So what I'm going to do is, because I have well water, I don't want to pour this right down the sink because it's got a lot of grease in it, and you're not supposed to do that if you have well water. So what I do is I have a big pan with a colander inside, and I'm just going to pour it all right into the colander, and then I'm going to pull it out of the water and take my bones and put them to work. Be careful when you're doing this, that water is still very hot. So now I took my colander, I got all the water out, shook it all out, and I put all my my bones in a roasting pan covered with aluminum foil so I don't have to scrape it when I'm done. Plus, what you're going for here is you're roasting at this point. This is the next step, roasting, and this is another important step that is not going to make good bone broth if you don't do this. So I got my oven set at broil at 500 degrees, preheated, and I'm going to run this for an hour. And what you're going for here is you're really trying to get these things dark, almost to the point of burnt. And anything that comes out of it that's on the side, like scraped up drippings that get burnt and stuff, you want all that in your final product. So this is going in the oven now on broil at 500 for an hour. And back the big one, and I filled all my bones in it with a tongue, and then I put all my vegetables in, because you don't want to wait till you put the water in, because then it'll all float up and spill over. So I filled it all up with the meat, and then I put the vegetables on top, and then I filled the water up a little bit high, but in the end, what we're going for, since it does take 27 hours to make, even though there's a little prep, I want to get ultimate yield out of this. I'm going to be able to fill 2 big plastic storage containers with this by the time I'm done, and put it in the freezer and be able to eat it for weeks. So what we're going for right now is a boil. We want to get it to a good boil, get it rolling, and then we're going to lower it down to the simmer, but not a simmer where it's just sitting there, or else it'll start cooling down and then you risk getting bacteria in it. Because this stuff will attract bacteria really fast if you don't keep it at the right temperatures. So what I'm going for is a rolling boil, and then I'm going to lower it down to a simmer where it's still bubbling a little bit. Then when I get home tonight, I'm going to take all those vegetables and pull them out. If you're into compost and all that, you could use it. If you're going to make some more of their stew or something tomorrow, you could try to reuse it somehow. Or you could just toss it out, which, you know, the nature huggers aren't going to like that too much. But anyway, that's what we're going for here, and we'll take it to the next step when I get it to a rolling boil, and then show you what it looks like when it's simmering. And then we're going to add the spices later on. So I got my pot to a rolling boil, and now I just lowered it down about between low and medium, but a little bit more towards the medium side, because we don't want this full roll going on the boil, but we do want it bubbling, and we want it almost rolling. So keep checking on it in the beginning. Get it to where it's not still, but still bubbling a little bit, but not necessarily boiling the whole time. And what I'm going to do now, since I am going to take all these vegetables out later, I'm just going to give it one round of the spices I'm going to use, but I'm going to hit them all again later on when I take out all the vegetables. So I'm going to put a little apple cider vinegar in there. Shake that up real good so you get all the stuff on the bottom. For one, it's got so much great stuff you all know about, but two, it gives it a nice little flavor. I like everything spicy, so I put a little cayenne pepper in there. And I like to put a little olive oil in it. Yeah, it makes it oil at the end, but I like having oil in everything now since I've been on keto. I like to put a little sriracha sauce in there. And even a little bit of this Tong Tong Bong Vietnamese chili garlic sauce. Which, oh man, that stuff's got a good taste to it. And I use the last of my Himalayan sauce. So I'm just going to give that a little stir now. And then if you got a cover for your big pot, go ahead and cover it, but leave it cracked a little bit so it's not just like, you know, compressed in there. You want to let it breathe a little bit or else it'll start boiling over. So I got it all in there now. And all I'm going to do at this point is cover it, and I'm going to shift it with the pan I used to roast before. I'm going to leave a little room in there so some of the steam gets out. And now I'm just going to check on this every couple hours, maybe give it a little stir, but there's really nothing else you need to do to this. So in about 12 hours from now, I'm going to take all the vegetables out. I'm going to add some more water in it so I get a lot of broth in the end. And then I'm going to put another round of spices in. And then we're going to let it sit for another 12 hours and then eat it tomorrow afternoon. So this is going to be the end of part 1, and I'll continue part 2 with taking everything out later on. Hey friends, I'm back. It's 2 a.m. Just got back from an amazing Pink Floyd show in Asheville. And it's 11 hours exactly from when we last wrapped up. And I went with the foil because I had some flies buzzing around. I didn't want them getting in there. And here we go, my simmering, beautiful half of bone broth. And I've been thinking about this the last part of the ride home because it's definitely going to be a little tasting going on. I'm going to go ahead and get all these vegetables out of here, which are all mushy by now. And I've got the colander in a pan. And I'm just going to try to get what I can out of here, and then I'm probably going to have to spoon the rest out. Lots of good stuff going on in here. I know this one is going to taste really good. And I know I'm not going to wait the full 24 hours to start sampling it because the house smells amazing right now. And just walking into it, the smell of it was really, really good. And, you know, I'm sure I'll probably wake up to some of this in the morning. And we're going to get all these vegetables out. There are a lot of vegetables in here. But I am glad I got some use out of them rather than throwing them all away because I don't like to waste food. Who does, you know? So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these vegetables out, and then we'll finish it off after that. We're back. And you can see I got all my vegetables in there, but I didn't get crazy. There's still some olives floating in there, a little bit of carrots, but my goal here was to reduce the pot a lot. And look how much room there is now. Because what I'm going for here is broth, and one of the last times I made this, I was really disappointed because I didn't take the vegetables out, and the result in the end was I got a very small amount of broth, and it was kind of bothersome after spending so much time, trying to get something like this done. And then just getting barely any out of it, I figured in the future I'm going to make sure I got enough room. So I got an empty bottle of water and filled it up. And I'm going to fill this puppy up so I get enough to fill a couple big containers this time. Because I'll tell you, I just had a little taste of it, and I'm going to have another one in a little bit. It's very greasy, especially if you do like me. If you add the olive oil, if you're not into grease, try to maybe not put the olive oil in, but I got olives in there, I got olive oil. I like the grease, and I like the taste that the beef gives it. And, I'll tell you, when I eat it, I keep a spoon in it just to stir it before I drink it each time. So you can see here I'm putting a little more sriracha in, a little more chili powder, a little more of my garlic sauce. And I'm not going to add any more olive oil right now because it's really oily right now as it is. So now I've got just about a full pot. Maybe tomorrow I might add a little more water in it depending on how it tastes. And I'm going to give it a little stir. And now I'm just going to cover it, and I'm going to keep it covered until officially probably about 3 o'clock tomorrow. But until then, I'm going to sample it. In fact, I'm going to sample it right now. It's very hot, so be careful. And hey, I should have said this in the first video. I take it for granted because I don't have kids running around. I hope you guys put this on the back of your stove and warn everybody to stay away from it if you're cooking it for 24 hours like that. Oh, love that taste. It's definitely an acquired taste, but I caught on to it a lot quicker than I thought I would. And that was after putting that Lowry's beef broth in it the first couple times, but just water this time around, and I really like it. With the spices and the vegetables, gives it some nice flavor. So I'm just going to cover it back up now. I'm going to get it back to that rolling boil like it was. I haven't changed the temperature, so I know it's going to start rolling a little bit. And tomorrow I'll show you how to filter it all out. So enjoy. Hey everybody, Fasting Eddie here. Welcome back to part 3. And we are just about before 24 hours from when we first started this massive project. I hope a lot of you guys aren't daunted from the steps. It really is a very easy thing. Just seeing it in so many steps makes it look kind of difficult. So hey, before I wrap it up here, I want to address one thing. I know a few of you are going to probably ask 2 questions. One, you're going to ask, with all those vegetables in it, am I loading up on carbs by drinking this? Well, I asked that same question when I made this, before I made this the first time. And I asked everybody on every site and sent emails to doctors, and the best answers I got were some of the people that work with Dr. Fung on the Obesity Code site. And they said from everything that everybody can tell, unless you're eating the vegetables, you're not getting the carbs. So really all you're getting from this is protein and fat. Maybe there's some carbs in there. I put some sriracha in. Those have a little bit of carbs, a little bit. I don't think if there's any carbs, there's anything that's to worry about, because I actually sipped a cup of this after part 2, and then I checked my glucose an hour later, and it didn't affect it at all. My ketones did drop a little bit, and that's going to be your next question. Will this break a fast? And I'm going to actually get into what breaks a fast and what constitutes a fast in one of my upcoming videos. But if you're not going for a 3-day water wash and trying to reach total autophagy, then I wouldn't worry about it. If I'm going to drink 1 coffee cup of this during a fast, and it sets me back for a couple hours, it's not going to catch up to me. I'm just going to keep going. So I wouldn't worry about it. If you're in your fasting windows, drink this with your meals. It's excellent. And if you're on a fast and you're hungry as hell and you got to have a cup of bone broth, then go ahead and do it. Don't worry about what anybody says. I mean, I do it occasionally. Now, look, when I'm fasting, I don't drink 10 cups of this a day. I might drink one in the morning and a cup, and then a cup maybe at night, and I don't worry about the impacts of it because everything else is rolling along as it should. So, what I did while you guys were gone was I don't have a lot of pots and stuff. So I transferred everything over to this roaster pan, the one you saw that I was using earlier, and I took my original pot back because it's the biggest one I have. And I cut a couple of strips of this cheesecloth and laid it over the sides. And my little trick is I put bungee cords around it. I know everybody's got bungee cords laying around in their garage. And I kind of fashion a few of them in different places so it makes it real tight. And I leave a little bit of an indent in here. And then I kind of push on it because that's what it's going to feel like when I start pouring in there. And now the second thing is when I poured into this pan, I was able to hold back most of the bones and stuff in there. And the excess is going into the pan, which I'm going to pour into my final product. And then you'll see here, I've got 2 big containers waiting by, and then 1 smaller one. These 2 big ones, I'm going to try to fill those up, and then I'm going to cool them down and put them in the freezer. And this one I'm going to keep for sipping on this week. Now, this is my next step. You see this bag of ice right here? Well, this is here for a reason, because if you pour this into these containers and then just stick it in the fridge hot like that, then they tell you you risk getting some serious bacterial infections. This stuff, for some reason, I guess everything that's in it, it really can attract the wrong kinds of bacteria if you don't manage it correctly. So when I pour these into here, I'm going to immediately put ice in all of them and try to cool it down as rapidly as possible. And then the 2 big ones, I'm going to put them right in the freezer, and those will be cool in no time. And this one will be nice and cool in the fridge for me to use. Now, the thing is, if you made this right, you'll get like a layer of grease on the top when you're done. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And then the freezer ones, when you go to take that out, it's going to be like scooping out gelatin. But what I do is I just keep a really big Pyrex cup around all the time and scoop some out and put it in the Pyrex, pop it in the microwave for 4 minutes, and I'm ready to go to sip on some broth. So it really is a nice thing to have. I know it was a little bit of a process to get through it, but for me it's worth it because I love the taste. I love all the great things that it does for you, and it beats eating a meal and breaking a fast completely than just taking a little hiccup and moving on. So I'm going to go ahead and pour these in, and then we'll look at what it's like after the ice. All right, well, Michelle joked with me about how much I had in my pot and how much I keep adding, and this was the goal. I've got 2 big plastic containers filled right now, and I've got one with a pretty decent amount of it that I could keep in the fridge now for the rest of my fast. So I want to take ice, and don't worry about what the ice is going to do for watering down, because as you saw, we added a lot of ice, a lot of water already when we were in the process. So it's very much a water-based thing, and everything else is kind of brothy, you know? So you're doing yourself a favor by putting the ice in, because the last thing anyone wants is to find out that you just spent all this time making something that's going to cause you a stomach infection because you let it catch bacteria. So I read enough things that said to get it cooled down quickly, so that's what I'm going with it. It's worked so far, and I've done this a few times. I never noticed much change in the taste with them being watered down a little bit. So that's it. I'm going to wait for these to cool down. I'm going to cover them. I'm going to put them in the freezer. I'm going to put that one in the fridge and kind of enjoy it during the week. And if anybody's got any questions, feel free to email me, and I hope this helped you a lot. Enjoy your broth.